Today, people would rather become content than remain human. They'd rather edit fantasies than transform reality. They crave to be seen as someone, more than to be remembered as themselves. But tragically, a self never truly known will vanish in the endless stream of replicated illusions. We live in an age flooded with spotlights, yet barren of true attention to the soul. We take pride in appearance, but feel shame in reality. We've become experts in crafting perceptions and conspiracy theories, yet remain strangers to the contents of our hearts. Today, I've learned to turn off the camera. Not because I hate the world, but because I long to hear the quiet voice that's been buried within. A voice that doesn't scream, doesn't demand, but speaks with honesty. I've begun to display truth, even if I'm ridiculed, even if it fails to impress. I have come to realize that finding wholeness in solitude is far more rewarding than feeling empty amid insincere accolades. What worth is there in presenting a flawless exterior if it means abandoning one's true identity in the depths of hypocrisy? I share these reflections not from a place of superiority. I too have been swept away by the currents. Yet today, I choose to pause and reflect before acting impulsively, asking myself, for whom am I truly living? And if the answer is not for God, not for truth, not for my truest self, then perhaps I have become a spectacle void of spirit, a body moving without a soul, like a ghost. And that word ghost, when reversed in perspective, echoes the word God in distortion. Ghost, the very antithesis of the divine. This is my definition of a ghost. So, let all who have ears, listen well. Worldly wisdom hath slipped from grasp, and the knowledge of the hereafter is long forsaken. He who dareth ascend is smitten by heaven's fire. He who seeketh the grave is cast forth by the earth itself. Thus is the soul left to wander, adrift in a realm betwixt realms. Unmoored, unfixed, neither upon the soil of truth nor beneath the vault of grace. No form to claim, no essence to anchor, no conviction to uphold. A spirit ensnared by the sorceries of the digital veil, haunted not by phantoms without, but by the dreadful silence within, the fear of beholding its forgotten self. The soul breaks its silence with a testament wrapped in poetry. Give thanks unto the soul, for without its presence, the body would lie burdened beyond measure. Throughout thy mortal pilgrimage, gravity doth labor unceasingly, seeking to claim thy blood, thy flesh, thy bone, to draw thee downward into the dust whence thou wert formed. Yet, ever is it thwarted, held at bay by the sovereign flame of the soul. For the soul, by its very nature, ascendeth. As fire's golden tongues leap heavenward, so too doth the spirit yearn for heights unknown. Though the wind bloweth with fury, still it bendeth not downward, but lifteth its gaze unto the firmament. And lo, when the cover of this earthen vessel is at last removed, and the spirit loosed from its chamber, rejoice in the sacred pull that draweth thy whole being unto realms unseen and unbound. Farewell. From the edge of all things, even the soulless form dares to whisper. If thy heart findeth it burdensome to part with the world, then be warned. For when thou liest in thy narrow cell beneath the earth, that longing may yet haunt the sinews and fibers of thy frame, craving to rise and breathe anew. Yet woe unto thee, for naught but shadow shall greet thee. A silence that knows no end. A darkness that presseth hard upon thy breast, mocking the one who dares unshutter the eyes once more. Resign thyself to Providence, for the comforts of the world oft turn traitor, and drive the dagger deep into the back of he who once called himself master. I sit now in a quiet corner, not because I long to be alone, but because I am weary of wearing a mask for the sake of a smile that was never sincere. I am tired of becoming what others obsess over, speaking as they do, thinking as they think, taking sides in things I never truly believed in, all so that I would not feel strange, not be cast aside, not be labeled odd or out of place. And there, amid that long silence, I stumbled upon a bitter truth. I had discarded my reason just to be seen through the lens of pity. We live in a society that was never taught how to be brave in solitude. We were taught to swallow the typical, to absorb the stereotypes fed by the curriculum, but never to bend toward knowing the truth of who we are. We were taught to feel safe in comfort zones, not to be honest or critical about the world unfolding around us. We were taught to play the role of the obedient, even if what we followed led us nowhere but into the valley of ruin. The mind no longer functions to seek truth. More often, it is used to conform to the desires of the crowd, and when that happens, the mind ceases to be a gift. It becomes a tool of colonization, placed willingly into one's head. I bear witness to a friend slowly losing his identity, bit by bit. Day by day, his voice changed its tone, swayed by the ideology of toxic masculinity. His writing was forced to resemble that of a doctor. His way of dressing is westernized, despite living in a land where winter never comes. His thinking is shaped by feminist doctrines, though he is a man. And slowly, he could no longer recognize himself. "If I don't conform," he said, "I'll lose everyone." And I knew then, this was the slowest kind of death for the mind, and perhaps the most agonizing if ever brought to account. Look around you. See how many have silenced their minds, simply out of fear of being disliked. How many have let their convictions crumble, just to earn hollow laughter in the echo chamber of the digital crowd. They agree with what they do not understand, follow what they do not believe, stay silent in the face of ignorance, and cheer for what is wrong. All for one desperate reason. I just want to be accepted. But what is the true cost of adapting by betraying yourself? Is it worth it? What use is 1,000 friends if you must kill your reason just to protect their feelings? I'd rather lose the world than lose the courage to say, "No, this is not me." It was then that I resolved. I wished to live with a mind still alight, even if I must stand alone in the dark. I want to speak the truth, even if I am cast out from the crowd. I wish to defend reason and conscience, even if only the walls of my room bear witness. For I know. The intellect was never made to be hidden, but to be upheld, even if it weighs like a mountain upon the shoulders, even if it crushes the very bones beneath it. Truth, by its nature, is bitter. And so, the path to proclaim it was never meant to be lined with roses and hand-clapping, not like the path of the enslaved, chained by a godless system. That road may be lonely, but it is the road of liberation. That is true freedom. And today, I speak to you who are reading this now. Do not abandon your mind merely to be accepted. Those who stand beside you only when you obey are not true companions. At best, consider them acquaintances, borrowed for a lighter when you need one. They are prisons wrapped in honeyed words. If fate causes your paths to cross, offer a greeting, shake hands, and take your leave. Simple, is it not? Shield your mind. Lift your head. Let the world forsake you, so long as you do not pronounce a divorce upon yourself. Because when all else fades, when the night grows cold and hollow, only two things will remain: a mind that refuses to kneel, and a heart that dares never be cowardly. If you look closely around you, you'll see some walking with their heads bowed, not from humility, but from the burden of shame they carry. Ashamed of bodies that do not meet the standard, ashamed of family names without titles, ashamed for lacking luxury goods to show off, ashamed of skin that is too dark, not fair enough, ashamed of driving old cars from the payphone era, ashamed of homes built with bare gray brick instead of polished red facades. And yet, strangely, the one thing they are never ashamed of is this: to live as a human without substance, without a distinct character, without principle, blown like reeds in the wind, sometimes to the left, later to the right. If such a soul were to walk the bridge of judgment, it would have long since fallen into the abyss below. Today, people are ashamed to look poor, but not ashamed to speak foolishly with boldness. Ashamed to go against trends, but not ashamed to mimic another's life. Ashamed of a face not deemed beautiful, but not ashamed to sell their dignity and trample upon their honor. Ashamed of wearing worn clothes, but not ashamed to betray their principles for cheap applause. Such shame is a misplaced shame. It belongs to the wrong place, to the bad truth. These are the souls who, the moment they awaken each morning, do nothing but compare themselves to the lives of others, as though it were a daily ritual. We have grown into a generation of masks, hiding true wounds, while proudly displaying artificial images, all for the fragile spectacle of a crumbling social stage. Have you ever felt ashamed? Not for some great wrongdoing, but simply for being different from the crowd. Embarrassed, perhaps, for not being as clever as others. Ashamed, maybe, for lacking social ease. Ashamed for staying quiet, uninterested in laughing at jokes that weren't truly funny. You felt like a stranger in the middle of the noise. But slowly, you realized that kind of shame had quietly dimmed the light within you. And that, perhaps, is the greater shame of all. To watch a world that applauds those who, without hesitation, strip their minds bare just to assimilate. To see cheers for those who twist the truth, who celebrate emptiness, who glorify ignorance, all while the light in the honest ones is left to fade in silence. I asked myself, in that moment, what is it truly that we should be ashamed of? Ashamed of failing? Or ashamed of being too afraid to try? Ashamed of going against the current? Or ashamed of living without conviction? Ashamed because something isn't perfect? Or ashamed for being false, just to appear happy in the eyes of others? Shame, when worn rightly, ought to be a cloak for the soul. But when worn inside out, it becomes a shackle. And so, with heads bowed, people walk. Not out of humility, but because they carry the weight of fears crafted by illusions. Too timid to follow the blueprint of God. Today, I learned how to be ashamed, but not of the world. I am embarrassed when I know the truth, yet choose to remain silent. I am ashamed when I possess a mind, yet allow it to slumber, be it at dawn or dusk. I am embarrassed when I cheer for what is wrong, simply because what is right is too quiet, too overlooked. I am ashamed when I lack the courage to be honest with myself. And from that true shame, I began to step slowly out of the shadows, not to show off, but to be real. Before this, I was but a ghost, invisible, even if I stood in plain sight, even if not everyone could accept it. Shame is not the enemy that stabs you from behind, but when misplaced, it plants long roots of regret deep within your chest. I write this for anyone who has ever felt ashamed to be themselves. For you, who feel like a stranger in a world ruled by the rituals of copy and paste. Know this: it is far better to be laughed at for being your true self than to be praised for performing a lie. Shame is not a sin when it knows its place, but to abandon your mind out of fear of shame, that is the true downfall of the soul.